Okay, let's get started. This session was positioned as a 300 level session on Microsoft mobility strategy. And when I actually started to construct the course, there was a real dilemma between actually showing code samples and a real conflict between showing code samples and actually talking about strategy, because the two don't really go so well together. So what I decided to do in this presentation was to do a real broad coverage of what we're doing in the mobile space, and I'll drill down in some areas. I won't show code, so I hope that's not a huge disappointment to everybody. But just given the time, we just don't have time for it. The hope is that by the end of the session, you'll come out of this with a very good idea about what we're doing in the mobile space. By the way, when I'm talking about the mobile space, I'm not talking about IP mobility. I'm talking about, primarily the usage of these types of devices, cell phones, PDAs, and so on, and how we're going to participate in that whole mobile infrastructure and that wireless wave. And maybe someday we'll even benefit from the price-to-earnings ratios that wireless companies enjoy. Who knows? So that's what this talk is about. I've got an hour and a half. I have a lot of content. And I think I probably have too much content, so I'll go through it relatively quickly. But hopefully at the end, the content that's available will be useful for you. You'll be able to reference it, etc. So that's it. Okay, agenda. What I'm going to talk about, first of all, is the overall strategy of what we're doing in the mobile space. I'll then talk a bit about Airstream and personal Airstream, and also give you pointers to additional sessions that are occurring this afternoon and tomorrow. Adaptive user interface is an important element of our whole strategic thrust. I'll spend some time on that. Mobile devices I'll touch upon. There's additional talks going on that where people drill down, and they'll also explain how to develop applications for the mobile device space. I'll talk about car.net, smart cards, and then one slide summary. Okay, so overview. So probably everyone's aware that there's this massive explosion occurring in the wireless space with wireless devices. So today there's 350 to 400 million wireless handsets available in the marketplace or installed in the marketplace. The projections are by 2003 there'll be 1 billion handsets. The industry is currently running at about $300 billion a year, and in 2 to 3 years it'll be a $500 billion industry. So the growth is just enormous. Handsets are growing in capability, obviously, as is the network infrastructure. So for example, in Japan, the plan is that they'll evolve to 3G infrastructure within the next year or so. Japan is really leading the charge on this as far as data services go. Europe is moving very quickly as well, and generally North America is a little bit behind. The South American market is exploding. Wireless penetration is increasing by over 100% per year in most of the countries. So there's a lot happening in this space. Of course, the network's all evolving to be IP-centric, so this is a dream for all of us. The implication of IP centricity is, first of all, we have a consistent transport throughout the internet. And secondly, it'll enable us to give new classes of features that are capable when we have always-on capabilities. So the IP-centric evolution is an important part of this whole thing, and it'll happen in the next 3 to 5 years in general. Operators want to have a piece of this action, so network operators or mobile operators have an extremely privileged place in this whole market. They own the pipe. Docomo in Japan has done a fabulous job of leveraging that, so they have, their iMode services that are reaping huge benefits and driving their market capitalization. And generally, mobile operators in the rest of the world would like to be able to follow suit. Probably the place that it's hardest for mobile operators to really make money off of this is in the United States. There's a lot of different technologies as far as wireless infrastructure goes. And secondly, the mobile operators aren't used to charging for SMS traffic or messaging traffic. So mobile operators in the US will be in an interesting position relative to what's going on in Europe and Japan, for example. Okay, when we look at the mobile data value chain, we see that there's really three key areas of segmentation. The first is the source of content and data. So that's where, where are you pointing your browser to and what are you getting from it? The second is really the mobile infrastructure. The mobile infrastructure includes two components. The first is the service platform, which is the thing that enables connectivity between applications and devices and intranets and so on. And above that sits applications and features. So network operators are providing a collection of capabilities that are obviously very important in this space. And then on the right-hand side is the devices. So all of the things that are going to access this network and these features through wireless means. And the interesting thing about the devices side of the equation is that there's an interesting set of complement that occurs when you have provision in all of those spaces. For example, if you're driving along in your in your automobile, what you'd like to be able to do someday is listen to your corporate email as you drive. When you stop, you might turn on your pocket PC or your mobile device and read your email as you walk into the office. And then when you get into the office, you turn on your laptop, and through all of this interaction, you're brought to where you started, where you left off. The system knows about you, knows where you are, etc. So the importance of devices in enabling services is a fairly interesting element to this whole picture. And finally, bridging this whole thing is the development tools platform. And so the development tools platform, obviously, if it can apply across that whole value chain, is going to have real value in the marketplace. So if you look at Microsoft assets in the space today, what we have is we have our content in the MSN space. We have web TV stuff. We've just launched the B-Central internet site. Corporate applications, we of course have our Office suite and our back office capabilities. Devices, laptops, we fairly pretty much own that market. PDAs, we're making some good inroads. Pocket PC is getting lots of good reviews. We have Microsoft TV. We've done some work in the auto market with our auto PC stuff. And then bridging all of this, we have the Visual Studio toolset. So the question is, what does this all have to do with mobility? So there's been a lot of negative press with respect to Microsoft in the mobile space. And we think that that's going to change in the next 6 months as we become more vocal with what we're doing and what plays we're making in this space. So if you look at our mobile assets, it expands a bit. So what we're doing again is we have the Microsoft Mobile Explorer, which is an asset we acquired through an acquisition of a Cambridge company. We have smart card technology that's making a lot of interesting inroads. It offers an interesting set of capabilities. I'll talk more about that. The PDA and Pocket PC capability continue to expand. And then in the service platform arena, we've really started to focus on that. So we purchased a company in Sweden called Sestak. They provide consumer email to a bunch of mobile carriers today. And we're leveraging that asset. They have good relationships with mobile carriers. They have connectivity to the mobile infrastructure. We have a joint venture with Qualcomm, which is called Wireless Knowledge. And Wireless Knowledge has a product on work-style server that has really pioneered some of the intranet access concepts. We have, of course, our MSys capability, which is portal and e-commerce focused. And then we have an Entropic Speech asset, which is another acquisition that was made. And the Entropic Speech is really going to be leveraged to give us a whole bunch of speech interpretation capabilities. So, of course, being able to understand speech and having speech as your user interface is a very important part of the whole mobile infrastructure. And continuing on that space, what we're developing, we have in the smartphone arena, we're doing smartphone, which is really a Pocket PC on steroids. So Pocket PC with voice capability. There's prototypes that are actually developed in Redmond, and they're very interesting to look at and experiment with. Very usable displays, and we think the device will be a real winner when it's released. In the auto arena, we now have relationships with 4 of the top 4 auto PC type manufacturers. And we're doing a whole strategic thrust in the car market so that we have a car.net offering. So we'll bridge automobiles all the way from devices through to the service infrastructure, through to the actual services. And then we're expanding the Visual Studio tool suite so that it becomes visualstudio.net. Visualstudio.net is the next thrust. It incorporates the ASP programming environment big time. And it, of course, covers all of our devices and all of our infrastructure. And then in the center of the universe is the service platform. Airstream is a key part of that. We're working on Airstream V1. And what we're going to do is, with that service platform, we'll consolidate all of our other assets. So we're able to go to carriers and other ASPs in the internet and so on, and have a very compelling infrastructure offering to both carriers as well as internet players. Now, the interesting thing about this slide is that when we talk to carriers and ASPs and so on, this is what we talk about. And if you look at it, it's a very compelling story. We have coverage end-to-end. We have a tool suite that is second to none. We currently have 4.5 million developers that develop to the Microsoft tool suite. So this is very powerful, and what's key about this is, of course, being able to execute on it all. And a lot of the pieces are already there. So as far as creating consumer value goes, the Stinger product is coming out. What we'll do as the key element of our strategy is we'll use our assets in the application space, both in the corporate side and the general internet application space. We'll use that content in order to drive more traffic into the infrastructure and drive more revenue into the mobile infrastructure. From the device side, we'll create more and more compelling services and capabilities such that these devices become more and more interesting in the context of the mobile space. And then in the center of it, we'll drive services and capabilities through our platform offering. We'll have huge ISV programs that are building on top of our service platforms. These will drive services potentially in the mobile infrastructure. And that will in turn generate more and more revenue in the mobile infrastructure and drive more capability, more interesting services. So that's really where our overall thrust is as far as our whole wireless mobile strategy. This is a very important slide. And then this all becomes part of the .NET offering as well. And I just realized that graphic isn't quite well positioned. But the idea is that the .NET offering will incorporate a whole bunch of these, the platform infrastructure offerings, both on the content side, the internet side, as well as the mobile infrastructure part. And then mobile devices will be able to access it all. So that becomes a key part of the overall .NET story. As far as the standard space goes, this is always a very significant concern when we talk to mobile operators or anybody who's thinking about deploying our technology or purchasing it. We're heavily involved with everything. So one of the key takeaways from this meeting today is that we are not opposed to WAP, okay? So a year ago or a year and a half ago, that was probably, there was different perspectives on that. Our perspective today is that we need to become, the best client for WAP. We need to be able to generate content to WML. And we're going to do what it takes to become, the best in all of the rendering technologies and all of the access technologies. So we're absolutely not opposed to WAP. We're involved with it. We have a lot of representation at the WAP forum. We're working on initiatives like WAP security, WAP push, etc. We did recently a submission with Docomo where we all proposed, us and Docomo and a few other companies got together and proposed that as WAP evolves, the transport layer for WAP gets replaced by TCP/IP instead of using its own proprietary scheme. And so hopefully that submission will be incorporated. WAP is actually brilliant from the perspective of companies like Phone.com and Nokia. Effectively what they've done with WAP is try to create a parallel universe to the internet. And to some extent they've been successful with it. And we absolutely don't expect WAP to go away anytime soon. We're also a member of the W3C. We're working, of course, in the IETF significantly. And all of our connectivity, as much as possible, will leverage internet protocols, will leverage WAP technology, and then we'll build capabilities and services on top of that to make it more interesting, and it'll all be embraced by our development tools platform. I'll talk some more about our development tools platform in the next few slides. Okay, working with the industry. So what are we doing today? We have relationships with numerous carriers. We have announced plans with British Telecom, AT&T Wireless, Telefonica, and Vodafone to beta trial our Airstream product. So they're going to beta trial it for the purposes of getting corporate access to their mobile users. That's a very significant carrier base, of course. Some of the largest in the world are involved in that, and our relationship with them is going very well. It doesn't mean that we're golden yet. They haven't decided to actually deploy the product. What they've decided to do is beta it. But we're optimistic that we'll get more traction on that as the product evolves. We're also working with pretty much every other carrier on the planet. So the 4 that I mentioned are the ones that we've actually announced relationships with, so you can read about that in the press. The JVs that we've established thus far are with Wireless Knowledge. That was the Qualcomm venture between us and Qualcomm. We each own 50% of Wireless Knowledge. MobiMagic is a JV between us and Docomo. MobiMagic is based in Japan, of course. And what we're doing with MobiMagic is they're evaluating their business model, but inevitably what they'll probably do is they'll be a outsourced exchange hosting service, as well as providing the corporate access to exchange customers in Japan. So the idea would be that with my iMode phone in Japan, I might access the MobiMagic data center in order to get both outsourced exchange as well as to access, corporate exchange that's deployed in Japan. Ericsson, we're doing a collection of things with. There was a recent announcement about it. We're working on having them incorporate our technology into their phones. We're talking to them about how we integrate our Airstream product with their mobile infrastructure. So you'll see as I talk about Airstream that one of the things we're trying to do is move Airstream into the carrier. And in order for it to be really successful in the carrier, what we'd like to be able to have is the ability for carrier-based infrastructure to marry with our Airstream technology. So the idea would be that if I sell Ericsson gear into the mobile infrastructure, Microsoft Airstream would be the mobile platform for enabling internet access that Ericsson would promote. So Ericsson can go and say, we have mobile networking technology, and we also have a corporate access story. The corporate access story is for Microsoft. So in order to do that, we'll need to integrate with their billing systems, with their location-based services, with their management infrastructure, so that Airstream becomes a seamless part of their whole network offering. Standards involvement I've already mentioned mostly. Partnership value creation. Of course, a huge part of this whole thrust and a huge part of our value proposition is that we get the developer community lined up. So with the Airstream product, we're having a small ISV event in the beginning of October. We've kept it small. It's already too big. It should be smaller. But we've kept it small because we'll go insane trying to support all of the companies that want to build on this stuff at this point, because the product's just not ready yet. So we're having that event. Of course, our technology bridges all of our device strategy, our internet strategy, and so on. We're targeting corporate development. We're targeting network equipment manufacturers, device manufacturers, etc. So it's a big play for the wireless space, and we expect to be significant in this arena going forward in the next few years. Okay, talking about product specifically, moving into product-specific discussion. First of all, Airstream. What is Airstream? I'll touch on this very briefly. There's a talk this afternoon. There's another talk tomorrow that drills down into Airstream. But just to set context, for those of you who won't be able to attend the other sessions. So the idea of Airstream is to mobile enable the intranet and internet. The real focus of Airstream V1, which is what is currently moving into beta, we expect to be beta ready at the end of the month. Controlled beta, by the way, not worldwide distribution. We're going to deliver an excellent platform for mobile data. And within that, we'll support both push and browse. So the idea is we'll have a very generic platform for enabling push and browse, pushing of intranet content to mobile devices, and browsing internet content from mobile devices. That's the real strategy. We have an end-to-end security element in there. It's not quite end-to-end, but it's pretty close. It's end-to-end until it hits the WAP gateway, and then we lose we go from SSL to WTLS. So that's a bit of a hiccup, but that's the best offering that's out there today. It's highly scalable, reliable, and extensible. So we've really focused on delivering a platform that is carrier class, and we expect to support millions of users in version 1 of the product, and we have a pretty good scalability story today. A lot of our scalability comes from the fact that it's built on Windows 2000. Building it on Windows 2000 implies that a lot of these issues are addressed by Windows 2000, and what we need to do is make our additional software scalable, reliable, and extensible. So the problem isn't as big as it first seems. And then, of course, we'll release an SDK that aligns with our tool set. Applications and services. The application that we're building on the platform is support for Exchange. So we're actually building Exchange 2000 push and browse access in-house. Wireless Knowledge is delivering the Exchange 5.5 component. So going forward, what's going to happen between us and Wireless Knowledge is Wireless Knowledge is going to migrate to being a service or application provider on top of the Airstream platform. So we're collaborating with Wireless Knowledge. Everybody knows what we're doing. We all know what each other is doing. And for a lot of reasons, this makes sense, even though there's a lot of things about Airstream and WorkStyle that overlap today. But going forward, we're gonna make that separation. We're going to drive mobile initiatives through application development. So big focus is on applications, integrating things into the product. Drive continuous improvements on the platform, and then do end-to-end integration. And again, a key part of something I haven't mentioned, but I hope it's clear to everybody, is that a key part of our strategy is to enable anybody to access internet content, including ours, and enable any internet content to be accessed by any device. So while we're making a very strong play in the whole arena, we're not doing anything to the exclusion of anybody else. So there's nothing that's Microsoft proprietary at this point, and at this point we don't have any plans to do that. If there's a reason to do it in the future, we'll obviously do it. If we can deliver really interesting, cool services, we'll drive that by potentially introducing new capabilities and standard extensions to standards. But at this point, it's all built on well-known industry technology. Wireless service platform, Tony will talk about this more today. My only comment is Airstream is built on Windows 2000. And again, we did that because we wanted to ensure that it was carrier class, so key important element. It's also intended to mobile enable applications that are built around that platform, or mobile enable anything that's built in the internet. One of the deployment scenarios for Airstream that we really like, and we're promoting very heavily through our business processes, is the one where we have Airstream as part of the carrier infrastructure. So what you see there is you have Microsoft Airstream in the carrier. It's either a carrier or a data center that has an intimate relationship with the carrier. So in the US, for example, that could be hosted by a company like Go America that today is the termination point for several carriers' URLs on their mobile devices. So in any event, it's an intimate relationship with the carrier. The key part of that diagram is that with that infrastructure in place, the carrier becomes more intimate with this whole service offering. And as a result of that positioning, what we're able to promote is new services and so on that are not possible if you have an enterprise-only solution. So the types of services that we'd like to see going forward, and this is not what's shipping with V1, but it can be built on top of V1, are things like, if I turn on my mobile device in a year or two, what I'd like to be able to have is something in the network that proxies me from all of my instant messaging communities. So I turn on my mobile device, and I get access to ICQ and MSN Messenger and Exchange IM, and I don't have to worry about logging in with each of those systems. Airstream is a technology in the network that could enable that. Another thing as an example is, as a user, what I'd like to be able to do is read email regardless of whether my email comes from AOL Mail or Hotmail or Lotus or Exchange, I don't care. So something in the network could abstract all of my email addresses from me and deliver me my highest priority email regardless of where it comes from, and take care of proxying for my responses and my distribution, my forwarding, and all of that stuff. So it's a very cool value proposition. And as long as the carriers get in the game or ASPs get in the game, we think we can really drive some interesting stuff here. Again, Tony's going to talk a lot more about this diagram. From a business perspective, again, we're working hard with the carriers to get this in, and this is really the topology that we're deploying for beta with the 4 carriers I mentioned: Vodafone, BT, AT&T Wireless, and Telefonica. Okay, another possible deployment scenario is where we have enterprise-only deployment. In this case, as you can see just by looking at the topology, there's not as much opportunity for interesting internet-based services. We don't like this as much, but the market realities and competitive pressures force us to do this. The reason we don't like it as much, again, is because we think that more services can be built as if there's an intimate relationship with the mobile infrastructure, and as a result, we can all make more money. So the bottom line is money. It's got nothing to do with architectural purity or anything like that. In this case, just by looking at the topology, you can see that the Airstream server or the mobile carrier really is a passive pipe in this infrastructure. The implication is they turn on their device, they have a URL, they allow a URL to go through their network and hit a corporate Airstream server, but they really have no participation in new services and capabilities. So this will also be heavily sold, heavily promoted, and we expect that it'll be popular, but we hope that it'll migrate towards more of a carrier-based infrastructure with new services and capabilities. One other thing to mention about this product is that we currently do not have a WAP stack in the product. The implication of that is that when we're plugged into the carrier infrastructure, as shown in the previous diagram, what we really do if the WAP is there is we plug in behind the WAP server. Now, going forward, what we're probably going to do is build a WAP stack into the product. It's not in V1. It's probably going to be shortly after V1. We're not building WAP because we really want to compete with the WAP gateways. What we're really doing is we're building WAP because we want our product to be more compelling and more capable. And also, given all of the feedback we've had on the WAP gateways that are out there, we think we can do a better job. And that might be, pure Microsoft hubris speaking, but we think it's possible. We have a better tool set, we have a better development platform, better development, just better infrastructure to support this stuff. And so we think we can do a really good job in that space. We don't have it yet. Okay, more information on Airstream is available, as I mentioned, this afternoon and tomorrow morning, so please attend that. Next is Personal Airstream. Personal Airstream is sort of the small version of Airstream. The idea of Personal Airstream is that... I didn't do that, did I? The idea of Personal Airstream is that it's a component that installs with the Outlook client. The primary reason for doing Personal Airstream is that we really want to promote this whole technology. So Personal Airstream is something that we expect to give away. We'll enable it to be rebranded. It'll be distributed by carriers and so on. It'll be available to all those rogue employees that want to install something on their Outlook clients. They can install this package and then they can get push technology from their desktop. Of course, there's a variety of technologies that already do this. We're offering some more interesting capability. First of all, it's integrated with Airstream, the servers. Secondly, it does a bunch of interesting message formatting and profile-based preferencing. So we took some technology from our research group that's based on artificial intelligence techniques for controlling what actually gets delivered to mobile devices. We've incorporated that into Personal Airstream, so it's a fairly cool product. It gives you the ability to shrink your message and expand your message so you get more data to your device, etc. It works with multiple Airstream deployment scenarios. So what we'll do is we'll release this broadly. Again, Tony's going to talk more about this product this afternoon and tomorrow morning. Okay, adaptive user interface. One of the key things that we need in order to enable corporate access is we need to have a very generic story for getting content out of the corporate infrastructure to be rendered onto mobile devices. So today, if you look at the world stage, there's not a really good story for getting WML to your devices, for example. If I use a Nokia WAP gateway, for example, the tools they have at this point are really text editors for creating WML content. We think we need to do a much better job of that. So what we want to do going forward is we want to have a scenario where we can go to all of our enterprises and say, you know what, you take your IIS server, you author an XML website, and you hit it with any browser, and that website is going to take care of rendering content appropriate to your device. So that's beautiful, and that's where we're going. And that's what the adaptive user interface stuff is all about. So build technology to format web content and UI for diverse devices. Again, I author a website, I hit it with anything, and it works. We'll take into account form factors, hardware capabilities, and support all of those listed markup languages. This is the product that's coming out in the middle of next year, middle to probably second to third quarter of next year. There's already a preview available of it. So what are the solution requirements? Well, number one, we need to support anybody's devices, including our own. We need to support open standards, so XML and SOAP are the two big things these days. And it needs to be built upon proven assets. So that means we have to leverage the developer community, ensure that developers can easily build websites that are easily mobile enabled for any type of device. And Visual Studio and Internet Information Services has to be considered in building all of this. So what are the pieces of the solution? Well, the first one is we need to have a server-side story. So today, all of our rendering is really done on the client rather than the server. So we're going to build additional technology necessary for mobile content. We'll have a single application model for all server applications, and we'll drive this hard into the web server arena. The second major piece of the solution is in the tools arena, where we'll incorporate this technology into our ASP offerings, such that you'll be able to have like the Visual Basic type experience where I take my toolbars, I add list controls and so on into my web interface, and those list controls automatically take care of rendering content appropriate to the devices that are hitting it. So we'll have two major thrusts in order to make this stuff happen. And in that case, what occurs is that Airstream becomes really the conduit for getting URLs into web servers. So in the next year or so, what we'll heavily evangelize is that strategy where you want to mobile enable your website, your internet websites. You buy Airstream to take care of your security, your password, etc. And then you buy IIS, the next version, and rewrite your websites using XML-based websites, and all of a sudden you're happy and all of your employees are delighted. So that's the real strategy. It's like a miracle. Okay, so two solutions to enable this are server-side XML XSL format pipelining. There's a development preview available. Later on in this slide, I'll tell you exactly where that is. And it's great for largely static content. So I create my website, and I can author it using this capability. And then we're doing the mobile web forms authoring. This is the strategic thing built into ASP+, or as part of ASP+. And this is going to be great for application-based things. So things that change as I hit them with my website, or with my browser. Okay, so why XML? XML is critical cross-platform technology. It should be the basis for cross-device sites. Of course, web content and apps shouldn't be markup dependent. Most of our current technology is really client-side, so if we receive XML, our browser can actually format it, but we don't have server-side XML capability. And mobile devices, since they have little horsepower, simpler clients, they really need server-side XML formatting. So the enhancements we're going to do are a collection of things. We'll support XSL pages, for example. So you'll be able to define your pages, and the content will be rendered according to the style sheets. The content pipeline is where I want to be able to add things in serially so that as my my XML messages go through this chain, they can be processed based on the application or the browser that's accessing it. For a rule-based transformation engine, we want to enable where you have a certain document type or a certain URL, and you call up a certain style sheet as a consequence. So a very flexible architecture. Rich device identification mechanisms. So today, one of the big problems with mobile devices is that you have limited capability in knowing what this device is capable of. You know what the browser is, but typically the browser isn't good enough. You'd like to also be able to know the size of the device and so on. So we're incorporating a bunch of techniques so we can get better at figuring that stuff out. XML transformation is related to the content pipeline, where I can do pre and post processing of my XML stream. We'll support caching, so the system's faster and high performing. And then we'll also add push interfaces to Airstream, such that you'll be able to, through your application, access our push interfaces very easily, so that if your web page should push content, it'll just take care of that. We'll have that integrated with the Airstream product. We're also looking at HTML scrapers. I don't think HTML scrapers is going to be part of the release that I just talked about. The XSL editors, of course, are a critical part. We think we'll have world-class tools coming out in the next year. Transformation modules to enable the easy processing and creation of these sites. A variety of management tools so that I can specify very easily what XSL, what style sheets get used in which context. And then we'll have lots of samples, so schemas, style sheets, etc. Web forms is the other thing I talked about. This is the UI portion of the ASP offering. So by 2003, most web browsing will be from mobile devices. I think everybody's pretty much accepted that. We really have to target those devices, obviously. So web forms is our next generation web development platform. And again, this is very similar to the Visual Basic experience. And we'll extend the application model that we already have, we'll extend it into mobile devices. So we'll have server-side controls for mobile devices. We'll target cell phones and PDAs. And again, the types of controls are things like list boxes, etc. I'll add them in, and they'll automatically take care of rendering content appropriate to devices. So I'll be able to construct an application for the web just as I construct an application in VB today. It'll hide differences between target markups. It'll allow the same application logic to drive mobile and non-mobile devices. So write once, hit it with anything is the dream. And then some adaptability. So you'll be able to specify, for example, that you want to control the content that's displayed on a particular card or whatever. So variety of things. Additional server enhancements, again, we'll have the ability to add a control where you can do push very easily. So I add my push service. I can write some code under that. And that'll drive content from my ASP pages or my ASP web form into my Airstream server and drive content out to mobile devices. And then, of course, richer device identification I already mentioned. So the tools, it'll be integrated into Visual Studio. It'll use Visual Basic-like authoring, and it'll allow web apps to be authored in numerous languages, so VB, VC++, etc. Here's an example of what's available on the web today. So in this case, what was constructed was I took the controls, I created this My Investor page. Those are the elements on My Investor. So if I pointed my browser at this page, I would see portfolio and indexes and news and quotes. And then on the indices card, what I've done is I've specified what ticker symbols I want. So I created this very easily using the existing tool set, authored my web page. Now I hit it with any browser and I see this content. So that's where we're driving. This is a very good perspective on where we're going with this whole thing. Okay, ship schedule. We have a developer preview now. It's available in the MSN XML Developer Center, so you can go and have a look at that. We expect to release the server in the first half of next year, and we expect to release the tools in the second half of next year. So this will be an extremely good complement to our overall mobile story. And we have mobile controls for Visual Studio 7 already. There's been a variety of demos and more coming. So that's where we're going as far as the tool side and supporting this capability. Mobile devices. So if you remember the diagram I showed earlier, the right-hand side was devices. So in this context, I'm focusing on 3 of those, and that's PDA smartphones and feature phones. I'll give you the 500-foot view of these, and then there's more sessions later on in the week that talk about how you can develop applications to these tools. So the idea is to focus on end-to-end scenarios, to build this based on what the customer wants, which is quite a unique perspective, and then support 3 major device categories in this space. So the handheld PC 2000 was actually released. This is RTM targeted for end of July. I think it happened in the last few weeks. So this is something, a step up above the Pocket PC. Based on Windows CE 3.0, I shouldn't say it's a step up above the Pocket PC. It's really a different target. We're trying to drive this into 3 areas. The first is as a mobile terminal where you become a Windows 2000 terminal services client using this device. A second is where you act as a web portal, so this could be in kiosks and so on and enable people to access the web. And the third is in driving it into vertical markets so it becomes a real line of business platform. So it can be used in different contexts for different stages of line of business applications. It incorporates Windows Media Player technology, so Windows Media format as well as MP3. It has a pretty good audio story. It supports the crypto API and the smart card API, so we're able to have a relationship between that and our smart card capability, which is very cool. RTM has happened. And there's a whole bunch of OEMs that are developing devices based on this technology. Pocket PC future is really described by Merlin and Peregrine. This is more futuristic than probably should be for this context. It's probably going to ship in the next, by middle of 2001, maybe end of 2001. But there's a lot of flux on what actually is in this product, so don't take this as committed at this point. But the real idea with our Pocket PC going forward is we want to really make this a fabulous wireless device. So we're going to work with our OEMs to integrate a collection of radios, so GSM, tri-band radios, for example, will be integrated with future devices. We'll take care of writing infrastructure. We'll probably do a lot of the drivers, such that you'll be able to see your signal strength, battery level, all that stuff will be an API infrastructure that exists on the device. That's a very important thrust of it. So we wanted this to be a very key participant in the whole mobile arena. We'll have more email transports to get better connectivity. WML support, of course. We don't have that in Pocket PC currently. We'll add it in the next rev. Bluetooth connection is very important. So with this capability, I'll be able to use my cell phone to make calls if I don't want to use my own radio. Or the radio that's built into the device for some reason. And then we'll drive bundled third-party applications. So that's Merlin. Peregrine and Merlin are actually merging, so this has become blurry since I put this slide deck together, which is about a week ago. It's happening fast. So again, the thrust of that was the best wireless client in the PDA form factor space. Great wireless messaging. We'll integrate, do more work in the instant messaging arena and that device. I'm not exactly sure what that is, but want it to be a very strong instant messaging client. Great browsing client. Anywhere access to PIM. We're doing a lot of work to integrate this with our Airstream product, such that you could have your next version of Pocket PC, and you'd be able to have over-the-air synchronization with your mobile devices. So today with Airstream, if you want to access your corporate data, you actually have to browse because we don't have built-in synchronization. Going forward, we'll build in synchronization. So with your Pocket PC or your smartphone, you'll have this over-the-air synchronization happening as you're wandering around. You can process your email offline or respond to calendar events and so on. And when you are finished, you just put it back in your holster and you walk around and it takes care of updating your corporate infrastructure. So that's a very cool piece of the story and very important. Okay, Stinger phone. I don't know if people have seen this, but there's, again, prototypes available. The Stinger phone is actually a very compelling device. It's lightweight. I mean, this is not the device that's shipping, obviously, but you know, it just shows that we can build these devices and they're pretty compelling. It's a pocket PC with voice capability. The real idea of Stinger is to emphasize the voice capability rather than the pocket PC capability. But it's an integrated package, and it's a very usable, very nice device. So what we're doing there is again, telephony key aspect. We'll support messaging, personal identification, browser capability, have a universal inbox that integrates everything, and enables you as well to view those. So I'll synchronize my Stinger device. So now I have my phone synchronizing to my email. So it's slightly different from the Pocket PC, which is a data-only device. So I synchronize the next version of Pocket PC, which is a data-only device. This enables me to have my voice device, but synchronize my personal information, my calendar, contacts, tasks, etc. And then go to my email, and I launch things, and I get my readers for Word and Excel and so on. So an extension today of what's capable and what's possible in Pocket PC. Fully featured local PIM with tight telephony integration, so close interrelationship between all of those capabilities on my device and what exists in my network. We'll have the HTML WAP browser. The current release of, this is not the same browser as the one that's actually our separate browser offering the MME. But what we're reading about the MME these days, the MME browser ships on a Sony phone, for example. There's some recent press reports about that it's a very nice device. And the thing that the reporter raved about, or the person doing the analysis, was that it's integrated WML and HTML. So I turn on my Sony phone, I hit a website, I don't care what the website is, I don't have to know it's WML or HTML, the browser takes care of it. So it's a real step forward in terms of the technology that exists on these mobile devices. The big problem is that when you hit the HTML devices, the HTML sites, it looks like crap because the display isn't the right size for the HTML content. But the idea is in the right direction. You'll be able to author HTML sites that do look good on that device, but the generic HTML site still doesn't. So anyway, we're going to do HTML WAP browser and the Stinger phone, support all of this popular stuff that's needed. Over-the-air services, server synchronization, over-the-air provisioning, over-the-air configuration, delivery of applications. We want to do this because we want to be able, again, in the carrier space, go to carriers and say, you know what, you buy our devices, and now you get the ability to drive new applications down to these devices, and we'll take care of the infrastructure. All you do is collect the money, so it's perfect. Smart forwarding, etc. Non-core applications will have media player, games, video conferencing. Not sure about video conferencing yet, but it's currently on the chart anyway. And then speech recognition. So we'll incorporate our speech recognition capability, so you'll start to be able to use this device, you know, more and more without having to actually deal with this painful keyboard experience, etc. So that's where we're going with that. And then the last thing in this section of the devices space is the Mobile Explorer. So the Mobile Explorer is this Cambridge acquisition. It's an Explorer that is runnable on any operating system. So far we have relationships with Sony and Benephone. The Sony review was the one I just mentioned, so they're actually using our browser. Ericsson is using it in one or two of their devices. Samsung is doing a fairly major piece of work with us with both our Mobile Explorer as well as our smartphone. And then Benephone has the Mobile Explorer. So it's a good product. It's integrating well. We're getting a lot of good press on it. We support, the killer thing again is a HTML WAP browser that's integrated and knows what site it hits. And then we're supporting a collection of protocols. And we also have a nice capability to view PIM information as a result of what we're doing with Airstream. Okay, more information. I've mentioned these. Great apps for the Pocket PC and web applications for the Pocket PC. So you'll learn more about what exists in the Pocket PC today in those contexts. Sorry, I just have to do a time check. 11:20. Okay, Car.net. Okay, automotive market. So today what we have is a scenario where there's 600 million cars registered worldwide. There's about 60 million cars sold every year. The auto industry actually moves $600 billion worth of goods and services annually, so it's a pretty staggering amount of money. And what's really interesting is 580 million hours are spent commuting in the US every week. So 580 million hours is a lot of hours. One of the things you'll notice is that if you listen to the radio, you'll always hear advertisements for cars. Well, the main reason that auto manufacturers advertise on the radio all the time is because they know you're sitting in your car listening to your radio. So it's a huge untapped market for a lot of services and capabilities. And another interesting data point is that in the US, 65% of cell phone minutes are logged while in the car. So most of the cell phone usage occurs while you're sitting in your automobile. So we need to tap into that. We have design wins with the top 4 automotive suppliers today. And we're doing a lot to drive forward those relationships. So as far as the market goes, the auto PC industry is not a huge market yet. Only high-end cars today will have the ability to browse the web and so on. But there's no question that in 2 to 3 years, we expect that this is going to just get rolled out everywhere. GM is rolling it out aggressively. Every major car manufacturer you talk to has serious plans to incorporate this technology into the automobile. So we focused on targeting the automotive suppliers. We have great relationships with them. We have a couple of devices that are already released. And we're just going forward with this and continuing design wins and continuing execution. The Car.net strategy overall, this used to be just the auto PC strategy. And with the emergence of .net, it became the Car.net strategy. So it was an important catalyst. The .net strategy was an important catalyst for rethinking about what we're doing in these spaces. So key thing is end-to-end strategy. And again, that's one of our key value propositions in talking to automobile manufacturers, carriers, etc., is that if you work with us, you'll get a fabulous end-to-end story. We'll make sure everything works because we're in all of the places that is relevant to this whole infrastructure. And that's an extremely powerful story. We're building out a Car.net framework based around XML. We'll support WAP going forward, and we're part of the UP&P Automotive Committee. The idea with the UP&P Automotive Committee is that you want to effectively turn your car into a network. So my device becomes the center of the universe for my automobile devices. It detects that my starter's working. It detects that I have a CD player. It detects what channels I'm listening to. It detects my steering wheel's locked, etc., my alarm's engaged, and so on. And then it can drive that information up to a central center so that the automobile manufacturers can then put in new service offerings and capabilities that is all integrated through their mobile infrastructure. So the potential here is really big, and there'll be a lot of interesting innovation going on going forward. The devices that we're doing, our strategy there is to build excellent set of components for a broad range of embedded devices. We'll support mobile devices, of course. So that means that we'll have interfaces between our auto PC stuff and your handset, a Bluetooth connection, so that I'll be able to make connection between these two devices. Today, in today's technology, what I have is actually a USB connection between my mobile device and my auto PC, so I can actually be talking on the phone and having it playing through my speakers through this USB connection. Going forward, we'll use Bluetooth and make more interesting innovations. And we'll develop a wide range of automobile devices based on the requirements of all of the manufacturers that we're working with. So the idea is that we have all of these handheld devices, pocket PC, mobile phones, and so on. We'll come into the car with them, and they'll be able to connect to any of those devices that are shown. So at the lowest left-hand corner, what you see is a very simple device, and what this has is a couple of buttons that enables me to do things like call emergency, or make a 911 call, that type of thing. Going all the way to the top, you have the full DVD system that's integrated into the back seat and so on. So all of those will be driven by our automobile auto PC technology, and we'll support that broad range of devices and connect to other devices that you happen to bring into the car. The client roadmap, today we have a set of capabilities. We're releasing things in Q3, which is the Thunderbolt device, and focusing on that arena on reliability and connectivity. And then we're just doing more and more all along. By 2001, we expect to have the Car.net server and services rolling out. The auto manufacturers love this story. They want something they want to go to a manufacturer where they can say, you buy our radio, our auto PC capability, and you get access to all of these services, all of this infrastructure. So it's an extremely good story again. And then the emphasis from the auto PC group is the engineering support. So they expect to support all of these devices across the whole range of distribution. Service providers will build the Car.net server based on Airstream. Based on IIS primarily, Airstream will be used. So for example, what we'll be able to do is we'll be able to go to a company like Mercedes, for example. We'll say, if you plug this into your infrastructure, you can now provide your users corporate access. That's a possible story. That's how Airstream could come into play. Or this could be, we'll give you the service portal, and you can use this. You can brand it. You can do all the stuff you want with it. But from the end user perspective, it looks like the Mercedes portal. They can get stock quotes. They can get text to speech, etc. Plugins that we'll do the key plugins today is really emergency call. Navigation is a key thing, so I want to be able to find out how to get to where I'm going. Audio streams and location-based services. So we expect location-based services to become more and more important so that the car will always know where you are relative to the universe, and it'll be able to give you services and capabilities based on that information. So we're supporting that technology going forward. And then we're going to build services. And the services play is really an unknown at this point. There's a few ideas, like software updating your mobile device that sits in your car. We'd like to be able to drive that from our services site. We'd like to offer MSN and other capabilities that are of interest to the car user through your data access channels. CarPoint capability, so when your car's broken down on the side of the road, you can figure out what you should buy to replace it. And the news services. Okay, Car.net is not yet publicly announced. It's going to be announced on 10/16 at the Auto Convergence show. Again, it's an interesting element in the overall .net strategy. Smart cards. So Windows for Smart Cards is a secure, flexible file system, familiar concepts and APIs. We think we have a very good story in this space as well. The smart card arena gives you the ability to have your familiar programming environment. You no longer have to know that your application sits between 1 and 500 in terms of the address space. It's taken care of. It's a file system. You add your application to the file system. You can treat it like another disk. So I can take a smart card. I can put it into my smart card read on my Windows box, and I can view it as the H drive and take files off of it and execute those files and so on. So in addition to it being a file system, it has the capability to, it's actually a processor, so I can run Windows types applications right on my smart card. It has multi-application support. I can add functionality securely, so I can actually control what gets added on my smart card through my personal identification numbers that I've specified. I have a variety of authentication protocols to control that the smart card knows that I can't execute this application unless it's really me. And then cryptographic algorithms to enable security. So we're doing lots of interesting work in that arena. Great tools. So again, fits under the existing tool suite. Today it's Visual Basic. Coming soon is the support for developing C-based applications with your smart card. You have simulators and debuggers, so you can actually run your smart card application on your Windows box through your simulator, and you can debug it on your Windows box. And then you can do a lot of customization. So we're selling this to smart card providers, and they're customizing, they're building new applications and capabilities. So architecture is really, we have an I/O system, we have a certain set of cryptography capability. You can plug in more cryptography elements. We have a file system that, as I mentioned, is just a standard FAT file system. We do authentication authorization, then we have the API. The above element is interpreted code. You can actually build your application, load it onto your smart card, and it gets run through the top left-hand box. I can also run things remotely, so I can run an application remotely through that leverages my smart card processor to do things like authentication or cryptography or that type of thing. So it's a good architecture for what's needed in the market at the moment. Industry opportunities, it's a very logical extension to Windows. It enables developers to build smart card applications for things like IT readers. Our smart cards can be used there. Medical applications where I come up with my Aetna medical card, I swipe it, and I get my drugs for free. Mobile phone, what we'd like to be able to do is where we have a lot of phones in Europe today are coming with smart card readers, so I can actually go to a site that requires payment. I can slip in my Visa card right into a slot on the phone, and that takes care of authenticating me with the provider of the service. It pays the bill, and I just pull my card out and I'm done. Personal identification, of course, so it's me, and I can use that in lots of contexts. Travel and entertainment services, and then of course credit and debit cards. In higher education, we're seeing this stuff applied. So this is a completely different world than what I used to be in, but apparently today people walk around with a lot of cards to do things like get into school buildings and so on, access the transit, access your meal plan. So what we've done with our smart card technology is there's companies that are innovating on top of this so that students get one card instead of multiple cards. So if I'm buying cafeteria food, I use my card. I go into the library, check out books with my card. I use my card instead of putting dimes into the copier machine. I can use my card to get my copies made. Loyalty is a big deal, so I can go up to my Coke machine and buy 9 cans of Coke and get the 10th one for free. That type of thing. So it's all being built on top of these APIs or the smart card technology that we've released. More information lots of information available on this. It's very useful to go and check this out if you haven't done so already. You can spend a few hours on a Sunday afternoon and actually become quite facile at doing smart card programming. And we see a lot of opportunity to drive smart card technology into a whole variety of industries. We have a lot of good relationships in place. Mike is the contact for smart cards. He loves to receive email. Send him as much as you like. He's actually in the audience. So that's smart cards. Okay, summary. I'm sorry for the very fast blast of all this information. I hope that it was useful. It gives you a perspective of where we're going from a mobility space and why we're doing what we're doing. The bottom line is that this is a huge investment for us. We have a lot of groups that are working in the mobile space, focused on mobile scenarios. So we expect to become an important participant in this whole wireless arena. Mobility scenarios overlap with fixed scenarios a lot. .NET will enable a whole bunch of services differentiation. We're going to drive content, applications, platform infrastructure. And we see it as a huge opportunity for partnering with Microsoft. In the Pocket PC arena, the smart card arena, the Airstream arena, we're exposing APIs. In the adaptive UI arena, we're exposing APIs everywhere so that applications and services can be built for the wireless industry. So that's it. Thanks very much.